Hi, I'm Dr. Dan and welcome to Dr. Dan's Original Trade Secrets, and I'm so glad to share my trade secrets, and especially this one that everyone's asking about, the kitchen cabinet refinishing. You're going to love this 2 DVD set I have for you. This first DVD is going to go over various things like how to remove all the cabinet doors and drawer fronts. Then we're going to go into how to tape the whole kitchen professionally, even so the customer doesn't have to take the dishes out of the cabinets. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to prep the wood, how to clean it, how to get all the waxes and dirt off it. The third thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to match the raw wood that people add. Many times people add crown molding, corbels and such, and we're going to show you how to blend all that in perfectly. And the next thing we're going to show you is the different tools that you need to do a good sanding job. The fifth thing we're going to show you how to do is do a wash coat, how to spray a coating on that'll, if there's going to be a reaction on the wood, it'll show up early on, and how to fix that, because we don't want any chemical reactions or wax when we start putting our color on. So we're going to show you how to do that. And then lastly, but not leastly, we're going to show you the professional equipment that you need. There's certain equipment that you need to do a really nice job with this kitchen recoating. It's the difference between a lousy job and a first-hand job that pays you a lot of money. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this first DVD, and hope you learned a lot, and we'll see you on the second DVD. Thank you. So here we are in the kitchen, and what we're going to do is we're going to show in this phase of our kitchen cabinet refinishing, we're going to show you how to take all these doors off and how to label everything, the doors and drawer fronts, anything we can get off we want to be able to take to the shop. And here's what we'll need for that. We will need a drill, and a lot of people curse me because I still use electric, but the batteries don't run out. We need a little bit of tape and a Sharpie. And with these, we can pretty much get everything off and get them labeled. We're going to take this kitchen and we're going to turn it to a dark chocolate. And we're going to show you how we do all that. But anyway, first of all, we just open this cabinet. And I just want to show you here, some people may have numbers here, emergency numbers of police, their family. I would ask them to take those off. I wouldn't even, I mean, you've got to take them off in order to finish this cabinet. You've got to take them off. But I would ask them, if they're really on there, they're old, I would ask them, could you take those off with a razor blade? But all this has got to come off. So here's basically what we do is we just take our screwdriver and we start here and we just pull these little screws off. And we find a little bowl or something to put these in, a little Tupperware or something, and we just kind of keep them all in there. And then what we do is this cabinet here, you can actually open it just a little bit, and it sometimes pops the hinges, and then you close it, and then the door comes off. And then what you do, you come over here, and we call this door 1. So we put a 1, I don't know if you could see it, but we put a 1 right inside the door, like that. Okay? Now if you want, you can mark it in a couple places. You can put a 1 here, or you can put a 1 in all 3. Now, because we're going to be finishing the back side, we don't want to paint that number, so we'll take a piece of tape, like this, masking, and we'll put it over that number. And sometimes it's good to do 2 of them, because sometimes the spray will get in there and it'll get wet and mess up that number. So that is number 1. Door number 1. And you can put 1 upper, or you can put 1 whatever, but that's 1. And then on the inside of the cabinet, you mark this tape 1. Like that. And then you stick it. Try not to stick it here, because that's where you're going to be taping. Stick it back here. Just like that. And that is door 1. And then you go down And you do door 2 the same way. Now what I like to do is I like to get these off. Some people like to just tape around them and then spray this with this on. I like to pull these off. It's the same thing. I'll just take off one just to show you. But there's a screw right here, and it's the same thing. And it just comes right off. That's all it is. And you take all those off. And that's what I would do. And same thing, just put those in a bowl and keep track of them. And then you just move this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the way around. Okay? Now I'd like to show you how to take off a drawer front. And here's the other thing too. When we're going to tape this kitchen, we don't ever ask the customers to take out anything out of here. We always say just push it back because we're going to seal all this in. You can see the dishes in there, some food. We just have them push it back so we can get our tape in here, which we'll show you in the next segment. We're going to show you how to tape a kitchen and do it really nice. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to take off a drawer front. It's right here. And sometimes you got to take some stuff out. You got to put some stuff up here so you can get to these screws. This one's got 2 screws on the back side, and they look like they're Phillips. And what I like to do is have my Sharpie in hand, and I'll show you why. Okay, now this drawer front just came off, right? Before I do anything at all, I want to mark this back side like this with an arrow up. Because if this door goes on like this, these screws might be crooked. This thing could be up or down. So you want to make sure that when this drawer front, when you take the screw out, the minute it comes off, you come right in here and you put this arrow up. So when this drawer front goes back on, the arrow goes up and it goes here. Now this is arrow up and this is 1. And you can mark it here, 1. This will never be seen, okay? Now what you don't want to do is when you pull this drawer front off, and when you mark 1, you don't want to mark it up here, because you'll see it when it goes back on. You'll see the back side up here. You want to mark it down here where this drawer is and nobody can see. And then the same thing, when it goes into finish, you want a piece of tape over the arrow and over the 1. And you do the same thing. And then we go through the whole kitchen and we label everything. All right, so now here we are at the island, and we're going to do this a different color. So there's a little bit different way of marking that I want to show you. And first of all, again, we got to take out something so that we can get at the screws. There's one screw, and what we do a lot of times is we leave those right inside the drawer so we don't lose them. And then we pull out the other screw, like so. Now here we got that drawer front again. We don't want to flip it or change it. We want to mark it right where it's at. Arrow up, because it came off like that. And what we don't want to do is take this off and turn it around and then mark it. It's really hard when these get all turned around. So this is Island 1. And once again, we put some tape over that so that when we spray it, we don't lose that number. And then the same here, Island 1. And this may be black. I don't know what they're deciding yet, but anyway, so that's how you do the drawer front. And you take that off. And what I like to do is put the silverware back right away so I don't get things mixed up, because what will happen eventually is you'll have a dozen things out. You'll have, you know, this will be out for this, and then you'll have the drawer out. You won't remember where everything goes. So when you take one out, take the drawer front out, put it back in, and then you won't get them all mixed up. So once again, we go through the whole island like this. Island 1, Island 2, Island 3, Island 4. Now here's a potential problem. These don't come off. These are what they call false fronts. And sometimes, if you feel up under them, there's a plastic deal that you can twist, and this will come off. On your higher end kitchens, usually that'll be the case. On your lower end kitchens, these will be stapled in. They'll be stapled, and it's better just to leave them or finish them in place. So anyway, with these false fronts, again, they don't come off, and I don't advise taking them off unless you have a stapler, you have a way to measure this and put them back on perfectly, and people are usually pretty sensitive. So you're going to have some of these throughout the kitchen, usually around the sink, different areas there'll be false fronts. And so I recommend leaving those on. So that's the kitchen, and then from here we'll just take everything off, and then we'll take that to the shop, and we'll show you in our next segment how to tape off the kitchen and get it ready, okay? Thanks. All right, we're out here at a customer's home, and as you can see, we already did phase one. We took off all the doors everywhere, and we also took off all the hinges. There's a little hinge plate that goes here, and we've stripped it down. So now we are ready to tape, and this is our second phase, and we're going to show you a few tools that make things really easy. One is this Easy Masker. It puts the tape on with the paper, and so if you need a piece to stay underneath the counter, you can pull a very long piece like this, and it puts the tape with the paper at the same time, and it makes it really, really easy. So we're going to demonstrate just some things you need. So you need an Easy Masker. You need some rolls of 12-inch paper. This is Easy Mask, and they fit right on these machines. And you can buy them by the case at Sherwin. And they also come in different sizes. They come in 6-inch rolls. My wife prefers 6-inch for the interior cabinets. She just puts one of these on there instead of the 12. So you're going to need some rolls of paper. They're a couple bucks a roll. You're going to need some 1-inch tape. That's what goes on the Easy Masker right here. And you're going to need some 1.5-inch tape. And here's why. The 1.5 inch is what I use to tack down these corners like that. It keeps everything from flying away, because when you're spraying, you've got air blowing, and it's blowing this paper everywhere. So you want to just put a few pieces just like this, and the 1.5 inch holds it better than the 1 inch. So again, the few things you're going to need for the kitchen are an Easy Masker, masking paper, tape, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and you're going to need some floor paper, and this is rosin paper. You can get all of this, by the way, at Sherwin's. You can get this at Home Depot, you can get this at Home, you can get everything at Home Depot, or you can get everything at Sherwin's. I recommend going to Sherwin's and opening up an account. They'll give you a discount. And just say I'm just starting my own company and I want to get the best prices. So this paper here is for the floor. And it comes in red paper, it comes in brown paper. But basically it's wide, it covers a lot of area quick, and we'll show you a picture of it when we're all done on how the floor gets done. Last but not least, for taping, we need this plastic. And once again, you can get this at Sherwin's or Home Depot. But I believe it's 12 by 14, yeah, 12 by 400. And it's very thin, but this roll will do 2-3 jobs. And you should be able to get it for about 20 bucks a box. And it goes out and then it opens up, and that's how we seal off the room. We seal off the kitchen from the house because we don't want the overspray to go into the house. So we'll demonstrate. Basically, I'll show you real quickly just a few little taping techniques. Again, I got my 1.5 inch, and I'll tape this little area for you. And I just kind of go like that. Just stick it right up in there. Nice and tight. You don't want the paint showing. And then you can fold this back or whatever. And then do the same thing here. Just come down like so. And you can fold this under, whatever you want to do. Same thing on the other side. This doesn't have to be exact or perfect. Just get it close. And then again, tape down all your loose ends. You don't want this stuff flying everywhere. So tape down this paper here, tape down this here,
I always pull it a little tight. I always put it on and then I give it a little tug. And then I know I got a nice tight. And then, you know, if you want to do the seams, you can do that. So that's how quick it is right there. And you just keep going along here, up here, over here. And then the insides, let me just show you that real quick. That's a little more tricky. But basically, you pull it about the length of here, maybe a little longer. And you saw this in. You just kind of go like this. Don't stick it, because then you can't saw it. But just kind of work it in like this. Stick it there. Stick it here. Again, it don't have to be perfect, because you can wipe it out. And then come down to the bottom. Go along the inside. Again, when you get this paper and tape, it makes it a lot easier. Now it looks like a mess, doesn't it? But really all you got to do is kind of play with it. Just hold it here, kind of tuck it down like so. Put a little piece of paper in there. Same with up here. It gets sticky, it gets messy. You got to practice. You got to practice with it. But same thing, just kind of stick it in there, come around the top. And don't worry if you don't get a little piece like that. You can always put a little piece in there. If you miss a spot, you can just come back and do that. So same thing, I hold it here, tuck it in there, and then I tack it like so. Now my wife could probably do this better than me, but same thing on the other side. Just come in the same way, saw it in past those shelves. Sometimes you don't have those shelves, but most of the time you do. Stick it in there again, like so. Fold this under, just kind of tuck it under. Stick it like that. Push it where you have a little bit of edge to tape. Now, the thing I will tell you is I've been doing this a while, and this isn't easy at first. It takes a little time, and I always tape this seam because that arrow catch and blow that. So I always tape that seam. And then the bottom, same thing. I come down here. See, I messed up. I stick it to the bottom first. Now that's one tape cabinet. And then we do that to all these. And don't worry, give yourself time. You'll mess up the paper. And if you pull this out and it gets all messed up in here, just wad it up and throw it away. And just do it again. There's no wrong. Countertops, same way. You get started here, make sure you cover all the surfaces. You don't want to spray people's granite. I got it down over the edge here a little bit. As you can see, it's so cool, these machines. See, you can adjust it. You just pull it down a little bit below, and then just go like this. Same thing, you can see the edge. I always kind of leave it loose, and then I go down. And then once I get below, I go like this. And I got the boxes in the way. And then I come in. You want to make sure to do this. Again, pull it tight, like so. Pull this, and then fold this over, like so, a little bit on the seam. And that's how you do it, and we cover this completely. So what we're going to do now is we'll go through the whole kitchen, and we'll tape all these boxes up here, the ceiling, we'll tent it off, we'll show you everything, how to do this. We cover these appliances as good as you can cover them. These are very expensive appliances. When you start doing these homes, usually people put in new granite and they put in brand new stainless steel. So you want to be careful with these maskers around these when you tear, that you don't do that and nick one of these appliances. You know, if you're working here, just stand back here and pull your paper and tear it, as opposed to, you know, tearing into something. Do not tear in to an appliance, or you might own it. So anyway, that's how we're going to tape this kitchen, and we'll show you how to do it. We'll show you what it looks like when it's all done, okay? All right, here we are in the kitchen just a couple hours later, and you can kind of see how we did this. I always use double paper. I use my 12-inch paper, and then I use one more, because when I spray here, it doesn't quite cover it. So I always go double paper, double paper. And these are sealed off nicely. You can see all the cabinetry, the walls. I probably should go out one more here, so I have a double. And then we cover the fridge. We make it so you can open them. We tape them so you can open them like that because the homeowner, I'm going to be spraying tomorrow, so it's a courtesy if you can leave it to where the homeowner can still use it. This particular homeowner told me that they were going to go out to dinner, so that's why we covered the range and the stove and the range and everything. They said they weren't going to be here. This is how we do the door, because they're going to be coming through here tonight and they need to be able to get through their house, so they may come into the garage. And we got this rolled back, so in the morning we just cut this tape and drop it down. And here's another area we've got taped. This one we sealed off completely because nobody needs to come through there. And that's another little bar area. See, it's all covered. The floor is done really nicely, really tight. You can see in here. And just everywhere. We don't want that overspray to travel under their walls. We don't want to have to paint their whole kitchen. So it's better just to put one extra piece of paper. Even though we're spraying here, we got an extra piece of paper so no overspray gets on. And you can kind of see, you can just walk around and take a look at how everything's taped, the floor, the cabinets, just really nicely. And then of course, this tomorrow, we'll drop down this here and we'll unroll it like this, and we'll close this off, and then we'll open this door here tomorrow and we'll put a fan in here for our spray, and that'll get everything out of here. We'll drop a fan over there and over here and we'll start spraying. And anyway, so this is a taped kitchen here, so you can see how it looks when it's all done. And this is actually ready. Now tomorrow, they've got kids, so we always leave the sink open. And then tomorrow we'll cover the sink, we'll cover that. Anything that we've left out we'll cover. But we're ready to spray right now. We're ready to sand it and spray it. And that's it for the taping. All right, now we're going to go to the next step, which is we've got to get this surface ready to tone, ready to change the color. And they want to go to kind of a chocolate espresso kind of a color. So the first thing you want to do is you want to wipe this off. This may have some wax or oil, and so you want to use some mineral spirits. And you can probably see just a nice wet wipe. You don't have to overdo it. Hit the end panel lightly. Just go over every bit of wood, and this will clean it right off. If you have a stubborn spot, there's a cloth called Scotch-Brite pad, and this is equivalent to, I don't know, like a 220 grit. So you might have to wipe it with a little mineral, say it's really black, and then hit it with this Scotch-Brite, and that'll take anything off. So this is actually like a piece of sandpaper. So you just go around it. Most of it will come off just with the mineral spirits. You can see on the rag, you can see that kind of green wax or whatever it is. And again, you just wipe all the surfaces really nice with that mineral spirits. Especially around the stove area, you can just see it's just really grimy. You can just see on the rag around the stove, you're going to get, like I say, just clean it really good. The end panels. All right, now once we've got it all cleaned with mineral spirit, the next step is the sanding. And I've got a DeWalt sander here. You can get these at Home Depot. I think they're around $65, and they're the Velcro. And what we do is we take the 220 grit. I've got this blue paper. You can buy it by the box in the hundreds, as you can see. Just shop around for it because it can vary in price quite a bit. Sometimes you can pay, $75 a box, and other times you can pay $20, $30. So shop around a bit. So we put this on our sander, and we set this flat on here. We don't go on angles like this. We set it flat. Okay, that's all we want to do. We don't want to do much more than that because we'll burn through this stain. we don't want these edges all burned through. So you just, all you need is a light to where it powders up like that. Very light. Just watch a light. Okay, just a warning, be careful on some of these end panels. Some of these end panels are paper, and you probably don't want to use this on paper. You could tell the difference. One is actual wood. This is paper, and it just looks phony. It feels like paper. And then if you come around to the front, this is real wood. And you can actually put a really good sand on that. But these end panels that are paper, I don't recommend sanding with machine, because you'll take the grain right off. You'll burn the grain right off. Very sensitive, so you'll just want to sand that by hand. Sanded this with the 220 grit with the machine, then you want to take this Scotch-Brite, because you want to make sure there's no parts that are left shiny. Like this is still shiny. So you want to come in here with the Scotch-Brite and sand all these profiles just kind of lightly, because that's what the new coating adheres to. It's a mechanical adhesion, so it actually adheres to the scratches that this puts in it. So you just want to make sure that you get everything sanded really nice and scratched really good. Same within here. And again, this is like 220 sandpaper. You can sand in here inside the profiles, or you can use just regular 220 sandpaper. Either one. You can take a piece of the 220 for the disc if you want and sand in here. But sand everything. Don't leave anything that's not sanded. You want to make sure you touch everything, and that's how you work that. You get this red Scotch-Brite at Sherwin-Williams. Don't get the gray, it's too fine. You got to have the red. All right, I wanted you to see this. See, when we sand this, we're just sanding the clear. We're not trying to sand it through the wood. It's just a very light sand. Now here's what will happen if you go too far. You're going to end up doing this. You're going to burn through the finish. In this particular case, there was a big long gouge in here, so I'm just sanding it all the way off so that I could stain it back and make it like new, because it had a big deep gouge. But this is what will happen too if you use a grit heavier than 220. If you start using 180, 150, you'll burn right through this finish, so you don't want to do that. So this is just one that I'm going to sand off all the way down just to fix this scratch that was right here. Now we're ready to stain it and catch it back up to this, and we'll have to clear coat it. But we got that scratch off there. All right, that's it. All right, so now one other thing I was going to tell you about this kitchen. They're going to add a small piece of crown molding, which is it's going to be a raw piece of oak. And what you need to do, if people put a raw piece of oak up there, what you got to do is stain it to this color. You match it to this first, and then you tone it all to match at the same time. And the way you do that is you take this drawer front, which is this color here, and you take it over to Sherwin-Williams. And you say, hey, I got a drawer front, I need some stain this color. And they'll either wipe it on the back, or usually they've got some oak, and they'll wipe you on a little stain, and it should only cost like $15 or something like that. But they'll make you a stain that you can just wipe on the oak, and then of course you'll just seal it and sand it and seal it and catch it up to this. And then from there you'll tone it. But that's just a little trick that I do. I never try to take the raw wood all the way to the darkness of this without first bringing it to here. So just wanted to let you know that that'll make your life a whole lot easier. And it doesn't matter if it's crown molding, corbels, any type of add-on piece, beadboard, anything like that, if you're going to tone it from this color to another color, I would bring the raw wood to the existing color first, seal it, sand it, and then tone it all together, and it'll all look the same, and you won't have any surprises. The crown molding won't be different than the boxes, or the beadboard won't be different than the other stuff. It'll be an exact match, and that's what you want, okay? Thank you. All right, so here we are now with the cabinet door, and as you can see, it's dirty. These cabinet doors get various kinds of grease, handprints. They've been used for years, and people's hands have touched them, and oils come up from the microwaves and stove tops, and grease is splashed. And anyway, the way to clean this, before you do any sanding, before you do anything, you want to take some mineral spirits. And this is paint thinner, but it's mineral spirits, 100%. And take you a little rag and put a little bit on the rag like so. And you can, don't be afraid to use it. And then just wipe it. Wipe it over the surface. Wipe it over every part of it. And sometimes, you can see how we're wiping everything. Sometimes you got to scrub it. Sometimes you got to use this little pad, this little Scotch-Brite pad when it's stubborn. And anyway, you just scrub it off like that, and that's what we got off, as you can see. And that will have a reaction with the clear coat when the clear coat comes back on. So you get all that off. You can dry it if you want. Now sometimes, if I have to, if this is really, really gummy, you can use a product called TSP, and it's at Home Depot, and it's a water-based degreaser. And sometimes it's good to just go in while the cabinets are still on the kitchen and spray them with TSP and just give them a cleaning. It really takes a lot of the grease off. And then, of course, after that, you'll want to use the mineral spirits to really get it off. And if it gets really, really stubborn, I recommend taking lacquer thinner, but I'm careful when I say it. Because if this is a real soft finish and you put lacquer thinner on it, your rag will stick. It'll actually melt into it. But usually these kitchens are a really, really hard coating. They're catalyzed conversion coating. And you can actually take lacquer thinner and wipe them down. And sometimes you might need to do that for really, really tough grease, okay? So anyway, that's what you do before you do any sanding of any sort. You want to get any kind of grease, fingerprints, oils, everything's got to come off this, or else you'll sand it into the finish, and you don't want to do that. Okay, now we're ready to go to step 2, the sanding. All right, now we're down in the finishing area, and I'm going to show you a few tools that you'll need that'll really make your job easier when it comes to recoating an already finished piece of wood like this and changing the color. What you're going to need, what I like is these DeWalt's. I know they have Rigid and some other different brands, but this DeWalt, one of these can last me like 3 years as opposed to a Rigid that I was replacing every 6 months. They've got a Velcro deal, and these are Velcro pads, and they come in either blue or yellow. And you've got to shop around. You can get these from 3M. Different companies have these, and they vary quite a bit in price. So shop around, and they come in boxes of 50 or boxes of 100. And this really makes your life easy. And these are 220 grit. I don't recommend any coarser or any finer. 220 grit is the best grit for getting a mechanical adhesion. You are sanding clear coat only. So you don't want to use a 180 or a 150. You'll burn right through this thing. And if this has color on it, you don't want to burn through the edges, and it's a mess. So you just want to be able to just sand it lightly, powder it up nicely. So this DeWalt is a very good sander with the 220 grit, just like that. It sands very level. It doesn't burn anything. The other thing you want to have is this red Scotch-Brite. You get this at Sherwin-Williams. You get this at Home Depot. This is about 70 bucks, 65, 70 bucks. You get this red Scotch-Brite at Sherwin-Williams, And they also have a gray Scotch-Brite. You don't want to use this one. It doesn't do anything. This is more of a polishing pad. It's not a sanding pad. This one here is a sanding pad. And I usually tear them in half. And that's what you use for these profiles to get these sanded really nice in here. And these edges, you want to use this. Also, so we've got sander, we've got Scotch-Brite, and now we have sanding paper. And this is a very good sandpaper that you can get from Home Depot. It's the same thing. It's 220 grit. It's this yellow paper. This is not garnet paper. This is fine sanding paper. This is for finish sanding. This is for sanding clear coat, not raw wood. They have a certain paper, and it's a real weird paper back, really dense like cardboard. And it's made for sanding raw wood. This is made for sanding the clear coat. I usually just fold it in half and like so. And then I put both of the razors, the rough edges up with the back and face each other. And then I fold them like this. And the reason I do that is because one, when you sand, it stays together, see it doesn't slide, as opposed to this, see it doesn't hold together. But if you do this tri-fold, when you sand, it stays together. And then when you're done sanding here and here, you flip it over and sand here. And then when you're done with both of these, you flip this around, and you got 3 sides again. So you get to use all of your sandpaper very well. So this is just a little trick. Tear your paper in half, put the 2 halves together, do a nice tri-fold, and you'll use every bit of paper. Now this particular paper here goes a long way. This one sheet, you might do your whole job with it. One sheet of paper. And it's again for edges. You may want to sand the edges with it. Some interior profiles. If this is a darker color, you might even want to just hand sand these. You may not even want to use the machine if you're not good. If you're doing this and you start burning through lines, you don't want to use this. You want to delicately sand it like this, okay? So these are the tools for sanding this clear coat, and all you're sanding is the clear coat. You're not taking it down to the wood. You're just scuffing the clear. Here's another thing people have. They have these fine sponges. Same thing, they're really great for profiles. You can sand in here. They conform really nice. They scuff it up really nice. They take it down. Here's another one. This is 3M from Sherwin-Williams. Same thing, you want the fine. You never want the coarse on this. Same thing. It sands it really, really nice. When you're asking about these different type pads, things like this, just tell them you want a 220 grit or a really fine sand, and you won't go wrong. You start getting coarse, you're going to have all kinds of problems. So 220 grit, 220 grit, 220 grit, 220 grit. This is equivalent to 220 grit. And if you have to, if you don't like using this big piece for this profile, just tear it down again. Now you got a little piece you can work with. Now watch how good this sands this profile. I don't know if you can see that, but that finish is dull. And that's what you want to do, take off all the shine. And see, you're not affecting the substrate underneath. All you're doing is sanding the clear. Okay? Now I'm going to show you how to sand the surface, how much to do. You turn this on and just hold it very level. That's it. That's one door sanded. And then come around like this. Get your edge. Do your edge. And that's how you sand a door. That's how you get it all sanded. Now I'm going to show you what to do if you've got wax. And in most of your kitchens, you're going to have some oil or something. People's hands have been grabbing it for 15 years. And you're going to have oil spots. You're going to have cooking grease that has risen up from the stove that's on this wood. You're going to have all sorts of stuff. It could feel gummy, and you've got to get that off. So I'm going to show you how to get that off in just 1 second. Okay, so now you've seen we've cleaned it and we've sanded it with our 220 grit. We've used our Scotch-Brite. We've got everything dull and got the sheen knocked down, and it's all sanded. It's all powdered up real nice. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get the powder off, clean that up really good. We could even blow it off. If we have a little blower, just kind of blow it all out. That's usually a good way of doing it. And then now what we've got to do, now this is what we're going to do with every door. Every door in the kitchen is going to be cleaned with the mineral spirits. It's going to be cleaned off. It's going to be sanded with 220. And now this is a standard procedure that I use, and it keeps me out of a lot of trouble. After this step right here, you've got to shoot a clear coat. 1, 2, or 3 coats. Because if you don't, close this grain up a little bit, especially on oak. When you shoot your die, you'll see little white specks through it. So if this is a real open grain kitchen, sometimes after I sand it, I'll give it 3 coats of clear. All the doors, I'll spray them once, I'll spray them twice, I'll spray them 3 times. And then I'll try one with the die and see how it works. So that's what I'm going to show you next, how to clear coat this now and get it ready for toner. Because what happens is, when you give this first clear coat, if there's anything on here, it's going to react. And if it reacts, you want it to react with your clear coat. You don't want it to react with your dye. So you want to make sure when you shoot that clear on there that it lays down really nice. There's no little wax remarks or anything. If there is, you sand them out after the clear and you shoot it again. And then when that thing is perfect, now you're ready for toner. So I'll show you how to do that right now. All right, now I want to show you a piece of equipment that's one of the finest pieces of equipment you can use for kitchen cabinet refinishing. This is an air-assisted airless, and it's by Kremlin. And it's not an airless, it's an air-assisted airless. It has air with it, and it runs off air. It runs off a small compressor, and with it, you got an airless pump, but you've also got air in the trigger. And this gun here, you could paint a car with it. It's a really fine mist. It's just a beautiful spray rig. You can actually take your piece and blow it all off and clean it off. But this is the rig I use. These are about $2,900 right now. You can get them from Graco has one now. I think it's between $17,000 and $2,000. But all the Kremlin units are about $3,000. The guns are $600, and they come with the unit. I get 25 foot of hose. That'll reach all the way around the kitchen. You really want a long hose because it's so easy to pull over your pot if you've got 15, 20 foot of hose. So 25 foot of hose, air-assisted, airless. If you're going to do this trade and you're going to do it right, you want get a Kremlin gun. It's got an inline filter, and get this unit here. Get either a Graco, and make sure it's stainless. Stainless, you can spray water, you can spray varnish, you can spray conversion coatings, your heavier coatings, but make sure you get stainless steel. I would not get the other one. So go stainless, go the Kremlin gun. I love this Kremlin gun. It's an unbelievable factory finish every time. So that's one piece of equipment I have. The other piece of equipment that I have is this gravity feed cup gun, and it's for toning. I use it for toning, and I also have a siphon flow, and it's for toning too, for putting that color on. You can also, when you're really, really good, you can add color to your clear, but you got to be real careful. You can screw up a lot of stuff if you don't know what you're doing. So I'll show you how to do it. Put these dyes on with this right here. Okay? All right, so now we got the sanded piece of wood. We got it all Scotch-Brite and everything, and now we got to do that clear coat. We got to get that clear coat on, and we got to look at it and see if there's any reactions. So I always spray it out here first. Spray your edges. And then a nice coat on the face. And isn't that beautiful? And what I look for when I'm spraying this coating is I look for little swirls or wrinkles or any type of wax reaction. I'm always looking at all my doors. Usually 90% of them won't have any wax. But when you get around the sinks, when you get around the microwaves and ovens, you will sometimes have a little wax reaction. If you get a wax reaction, let it dry really good. Let it dry for maybe an hour or so, and then sand it down really, really good with 220 grit, and take out all that wax reaction, little swirls or little whatever. You want to make sure that that coating, when it goes on, it's got to lay down like a piece of glass, just like this one did. And most of your doors should look like that unless somebody went in and pledged the whole kitchen, and they do that sometimes. But so say you get some wax, you sand it down, and you quickly shoot another coat on it, and usually it'll be gone with that coat, or maybe one more coat. But anyway, you get a couple of coats on there. I won't shoot any more on here, but now we're ready for toner. Now we're ready to shoot some toner on here and take this to another color, and that's what I'm going to show you next, is how to use a dyes.